All right.
It's working, Kenzie.
Perfect. So glad to see all of your faces. Okay, concludes. Today, our hearing is on Docket 0588 to 0590, orders for the FY21 operating budget, including annual appropriations for departmental operations for the school department and for other post-employment benefits, orders for capital fund transfer appropriations, and orders for the capital budget, including loan orders and lease purchase agreements. As I said, we'll be focusing on youth engagement and employment today and hearing from Commissioner Rashad Cope. I just want to let people know the running order. So we'll hear from the Commissioner. We then, because we've started so late, there is a group of four youth who had signed up in advance who I'm going to allow to testify immediately following the Commissioner. And then we'll go to Councillor questions, and then we'll go to the balance of public testimony, which I know is also, there's also a number of other people. So that is the plan ahead. And now I will pass the baton to Commissioner Rashad Cope. Thanks so much for joining us.
So thank you, Councilor Bach, and good morning. And first, Commissioner is definitely flattering. I am the Director of the Department of Youth Engagement and Employment.
Well, my notes say Commissioner. Someone promoted you, Rashad.
Oh, that's very, very flattering. But again, thank you, and to the members of the City Council, thank you for your continued service and advocacy, especially at the center of this global pandemic. And thank you for having our office here today to present our fiscal year 21 budget. I would also like to send a formal congratulations from our office to all of the newly elected officials. Your presence and resilience is incredibly important for our community, so welcome. So what I like to do is, if you don't mind, I like to highlight a few areas of our work from fiscal year 20, and then focus the remainder of my response on COVID-19 efforts and discussion items. Is Councilor Bach, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so fiscal year 20 started with, I would say, so much positive momentum for the work of youth engagement and employment. And then we were all hit with this public health curve. This morning, I sat on a webinar with HHS and shared some remarks that I think is fitting to share during this time with you. And those remarks are that this pandemic continues to prove difficult times, but in this, we are experiencing many opportunities to serve our communities more effectively. We realize that no population is less important during this time, especially our youth population. So while the data is showing small to minimum youth-related cases, we know our young people are severely impacted by this. And we feel that we as YEE and others play a role in supporting our youth through this. So with that, I am extremely thankful now, more than ever, to really be in good health and humbled by this continued experience I've been provided to lead and serve in the work of driving opportunities for our young people and our service providers across the city of Boston. I'm gonna jump into one notable highlight that I feel helps capture the importance of our work, and then I'll share a few program-specific highlights. So on December 4th, a group of MYC members, Mayor's Youth Council members, met with Stacey Abrams, who was a former Georgia gubernatorial nominee. This meeting was hosted by the Edward M. Kennedy Institute for the U.S. Senate as part of their civic engagement education session. The young people, they got the chance to hear how important the census is for historically underrepresented populations, specifically Black and Hispanic households. Stacey Abrams shared the $1.5 trillion that will be allocated. She shared how money is not lost if not distributed appropriately to Black and Hispanic communities. It just goes to communities who are overcounted. And she shared if you don't get counted, you will not count for the next 10 years, and how this can lead to weaker infrastructure, poor overcrowded schools, poor hospitals, and how it affects affordable housing. So I mentioned that because this was a great experience for our young people in the city of Boston, particularly the NYC youth. There were other young people from Boston that attended as well. And we are hoping to discuss how young people can support the census work here in Boston, which conversations have already started. So this effort defines our work in the youth space and why it's so important, because we don't know what fire was sparked from that experience. And it's our role and our responsibility to create more of these experiences, whether it be through employment opportunities with community-based organizations, civic engagement, youth voice, and other things. So let me transition very quickly just to a few specific program updates. So our office is responsible for the Youth Lead the Change effort. And this past year, we led the effort to redesign the Youth Lead the Change program. Some of this information you guys can probably find in your fiscal year 20 accomplishments and your fiscal year 21 goals and initiatives, counselors. The NYC program, it was redesigned into a 2-year program to increase program awareness, engagement, and project implementation. It was also designed to better align with the city's capital budget process and their timeline. The highlight of this is our engagement outreach team. They collected a staggering over 7,000 votes from various young people across the city of Boston. Most of those votes were conducted in public high schools. Some of those votes were collected within community organizations. And then city councilors, you all have the additional notes around the projects that were funded for Youth Lead the Change. The second major highlight is our school year youth employment program, which is our Success Link program, where the city of Boston hired 755 young people in the program. So this was remarkable, really, because this has been the highest number of jobs the department has provided to youth during the school year in over 5 years. And you all have the data around the number of partner organizations we partner with for that effort. And also with the school year program, our office made it a point to continue to provide wages to young people that were participants in the school year program through the end of April, which was we was really excited that we were able to do that on our end. The last two program highlights I wanted to share is the Mbta Youth Pass. Our office also manages the Mbta Youth Pass. We've expanded engagement and outreach for the Mbta Youth Pass to reach more eligible participants across Boston. And we say more eligible because the Mbta has felt that there are tons of young adults who are eligible for the Mbta Youth Pass. And eligibility means that they are enrolled in a state and federal benefit program, and they're also enrolled in the eligible workforce development program. But this past year, we enrolled 6,344 eligible participants, and we were able to provide them with accessible and affordable transit through the subsidized T-Pass. And then the last major effort for us is we launched our Youth First initiative. And Youth First, it serves to support young adults between the ages of 15 to 24 by connecting them with resources to advance their lives within Boston. This is an online platform where there are over 1,000 youth-centered resources for young people. So those are some major program highlights I want to share. And then again, there are a ton of other efforts that are outlined in our fiscal year accomplishments and our initiatives. So let me quickly switch to our COVID-related efforts and particularly our plans around summer jobs. I know there are a lot of folks here who are waiting to kind of hear some updates around our summer jobs. So let me just give a brief update on where we stand and then love to hear some of the questions from some of our young people who are in attendance today. So our department, in partnership with the Mayor's Office of Economic Development, we've been leading this effort on the city end to create a contingency plan that will help provide parameters to allow for a modified summer youth employment program here in Boston. Our goal is to maximize the originally calculated job opportunities pre-COVID-19. So what that means is that there is funding that we have set aside for youth jobs. And our goal is to ensure that we are maximizing that funding and maximizing those numbers to the young people, to provide jobs to young people this summer. Midori Marikawa from the Office of Economic Development has really played a major role in helping us inform this plan. So thank you for her leadership and partnership and help in helping us navigate the continued prioritization of youth jobs during this time. And Joe McGoughlin and Alicia Monestino, Joe is from Pick and Alicia is from Northeastern, they too have been very instrumental in analyzing this issue from a research, resource, and a policy lens. And then the next thing in terms of staffing, I wanted to kind of go back just to thank our team. YE has a team of caring adults that are extremely thoughtful and committed in moving our work forward. So I thank our team, Tierra Lyons and our employment team, who continue to think critically about improving our work from the process and the system end. Ruth Georges, who is transitioning out of our role, who has lifted up, and the engagement team, who has lifted up the importance of civic engagement work. Out of her leadership, we launched Youth First and other efforts around YLC as well. And then Eduardo Franco, our career development team, who remains invested in helping us shape career development and skill development opportunities for our young people. And Lovell Parkman, who supports our operational and IT needs for the office. And then we can't forget our part-time interns who are closer to the ground, I would say, than our full-time staff. And they really serve as the people resources in the workforce to implement our programs, our services, and to move our work from ideas to action. They're paramount in any goals or success we achieve. So I say thank you to all of them. And I think with that, I'll take as many questions as possible. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rashad. And thank you also for the really thorough responses that YE provided to the council's questions. I really appreciate that. And I will just flag for my colleagues that if you didn't get a chance to see those yet today, you should definitely pull them up on your screen during this hearing because they're very helpful and informative. As I mentioned at the start, so this is what we're going to do in terms of questions and testimony. So we do have a group of our young people, 4 of our young people, who asked ahead of time if they could go a little earlier, especially given that we have started so late. So I'm going to take those 4 together in order, and I'll admit them in a second into the panelist room. We will then go to a round of counselor questions, and then we'll go back to public testimony. I know there are other people who have also signed up to testify. And we, right now, we've got, besides myself, Councillor Mejia, Councillor Campbell, Councillor Flaherty, Councillor Sabi George, and Councillor Edwards. So I want to thank them all for joining. So we'll do a round of counselor questions after that initial testimony, then some testimony. And then if colleagues have a second round of questions and they stay on to the bitter end and Rashad is still here, we will do that. But that's our sort of running order plan. And I know, Rashad, that given this work, you'll appreciate, the desire to have our young people right in the middle of this conversation with us.
Absolutely.
And I know you've been meeting with many of them virtually as this crazy time has been proceeding. So I'm going to admit some folks into the main room. If you can just hang on a second until I recognize you to start. All right, and I'm still looking for Janelle, if you're in the waiting room under some other name, please change your name so that I can see you, because I don't see you at the moment. All right, I think we're gonna go. So we're gonna hear in order from Nausicaa and then Jasmani. Janelle, if Janelle manages to join us, and then Kanaya. We're also gonna, central staff is gonna put up just a couple of slides that they had asked to also present with their testimony. We will begin with, we'll begin with Nausicaa, and if you can wait 1 second, just until Michelle Goldberg throws up the first of your slides. And if you, I know you have a couple here, so if you just say slide, she'll move to the next one. I want to thank central staff again for being the wizards behind our entire budget process. And although I'm calling on you by name, if you can just introduce yourself briefly, and I'll remind everyone that we're really asking you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. So thank you. Nausicaa, you have the floor.
Hi, my name is Nausicaa, and I live in Hyde Park, and I work for Youth Justice and Power Union, also known as YJPU, and I also work with REAP as well. So YJP and REAP have decided to make youth jobs our end of the school year campaign. Jobs in general are important. They keep our economy going all the way from a youth mowing the lawn for $5 to a corporate 500 CEO making millions of dollars. Adults in power continue to overlook the youth jobs department when it comes to funding, and I think nothing more than coronavirus has put many families out of jobs and on the verge of being homeless. In a time where people cannot go and interview for new jobs or get more hours than the ones that they already have, we now have many families struggling. As you can see on the left side, you can see that recently in the last 6 weeks, there were 33 million people in the US who have filed for unemployment benefits. And you can see that it started around the end of March and the beginning of April. And then on the right side, you can see that since the coronavirus outbreak began in the United States, Latinx and Black Americans are more likely to be laid off than whites are. And you can see, as the chart shows, that Latinx are at a 20%.
Uh-oh. Nausicaa, we just lost you for a second. Nausicaa?
We're most likely to see the pattern repeat.
You just came back, so we just missed the last couple sentences of what you said.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So I said that, I'm sorry, my Wi-Fi is, I'm so sorry about that. So I said that on the left side, you can see that more than 33 million people in the US have filed for unemployment benefits in the last 6 weeks. So in the end of March and the beginning of April. And then you can see on your right side that there is this graph that is showing you how the coronavirus outbreak began in the US and is most likely to lay.
All right. Afraid we lost Nausicaa again. Jasmani, are you in a position to pick up?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, why don't you pick up, and then if we get Nausicaa back, she can add anything.
Okay, no problem. So, hi, my name is Jasmani Rogers. I'm from the social justice organization called WEEP. We're asking the city to increase funding for youth jobs to 15 million and make sure the summer jobs program is fully running. I know that Rashad mentioned the possibility of having adjustments for the summer jobs, and that's what we're looking for. The program should expand to 5,000 summer jobs, 1,000 year-round jobs from September to June, and from 14 years old to 22-year-olds. And I'm here to advocate that why youth jobs are important, because a lot of the youth that apply for the youth jobs rely on that money to pay for things they need, such as clothes and lunch during the school day, or given the current circumstances, they were using that money to get all their meals throughout the day. A lot of the parents of these youth in the low-income communities that apply for these jobs barely have enough money to provide things such as clothes and subsequent food for their children, meaning that without these jobs, a lot of students could go hungry or without clothes. These jobs are also very important because a lot of youth, if they are not using the money to buy their own necessities, they're giving their money to their parents to help pay bills. As you can see, the youth jobs are a very important asset to children in lower income communities. This is why not only are we all here to advocate the importance, we are here to ask for more funding and full operation of the youth jobs. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Jasmani. Janelle, do you want to go next?
Yes, I'm here.
And if
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys see the slide deck? Are you able to see it? Or do you just hear us?
I can see the slide.
Okay, so just tell if you want the next slide, you should just say slide, okay?
Okay. So hi, my name is Janelle Fenton, and I'm from Dorchester. And today I will be testifying and supporting for youth jobs. I have watched my mother struggle with her financial burdens for years. I thought working at DYE, I would be able to help out my family situation, but come to find out I wasn't being paid enough. In this pandemic, instead of putting more money into well-funded organization, we should start putting more money into youth jobs that can help the economy. This can help them and help their family in needs. For example, the police officers are getting more funding than youth jobs. This has forced me to find another job while still working for DYE. You have to understand, as a student and as an essential worker, there's a lot on my plate. I'm a high school student getting ready to pay for college, and how can I be able to do that if I'm not getting paid enough money? That's why I'm supporting and funding and hoping for it to be more funding for youth jobs. And in this slide, it shows about how the funding for the youth jobs in the yellow one is like smaller than the other ones, than the one that's the other police, which is the blue one, is the police officers, and they get more money than the youth jobs. In the second slide, it shows how the youth jobs still, they have the money, but they still on the same budget, while the police officers go over their budget. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janelle. And now I think Kanaya.
Yeah, do you mind going back to
Is this the right slide? Oh, you want to go back to Nausicaa? Yeah, that's fine. Nausicaa, if you want to go.
before I go? I know that she had a.
Yeah, both of your Wi-Fi's are having a tough time right now. Nausicaa, if you want to go ahead.
To finish. I don't think this is like easy.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Much better. Okay. I'm so sorry about that. I had to switch over. So, can I just start all over again? Is that good?
Yeah, go ahead. Just jump in.
Okay. So my name is, I live in Hyde Park, and I work for Youth Justice Union. Youth Justice Empower Union has decided to do job fair end of the school year type of campaign. Jobs are very important in general, no matter who it is. It's starting from someone who's mowing the lawn for $5 and someone who is a corporate 500 CEO making billions of dollars. Adults who are in power continue to overlook youth jobs department when it comes to funding. Coronavirus has put many families out of jobs and on the verge of being homeless. In a time where people can not go and interview for a new job or get more hours than the one that they already have, we now have many families struggling. So if you look at the left side right there, there is a graph that shows that more than 33 million people in the US have filed for unemployment benefits in the last 6 weeks, starting at the end of March into the beginning of April, and then rising in the middle as well. And then on the right side, you can see that there is another graph showing how US Hispanic and Black Americans are more likely to be laid off than whites are, with Hispanics at 20% and Blacks at 16%. And then overall unemployment more than tripled during the Great Depression. And if we don't find a way to fund for youth jobs and continue to fight for youth jobs, the same thing might happen. Can we go to the next slide, please? Summer 2010, Boston Youth funded for 3,300 summer jobs. And then in the summer of 2020, Boston funds again 1,300 jobs. And this shows that the data hasn't changed in the past 10 years. If we talk about youth and take their work seriously, we should see that these numbers start growing exponentially, providing more jobs for more youth. And by doing that, we continue on with our demands. Next slide, please. And our demand is that DYE starts planning for summer right now and starts taking into account the amount of youth that they will have to start providing jobs for. And I know that we're talking about not cutting on jobs, but actually increasing them, especially in a time like this when so many families are struggling and actually need them. We're also talking about doubling the amount of success link jobs that the city funds for. So again, that we can provide more jobs to youth that are in need. And by doing so, we're going to need $15 million so that we can have 5,000 summer jobs and 1,000 year-round jobs from September to June. And then on top of that, we're also asking that Success Link opens up their brackets of ages to 14 all the way through 22 years old. And then lastly, we're also asking that Success Link think about distributing grants to organizations that allow for more flexibility when it comes to people getting paid on time and getting paid the right amount of money and not having to worry about all the things that come with it, and also take load off of them to kind of even the playing field. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much. Now we'll go to Kanaya.
Do you mind starting off with the demand slides? I just want to start off with the demands to make sure everybody's on the same page. There we go. So yeah, basically I just wanted to reinstate our demands. Like we said, we asked for the mayor to start making a plan to the summer now so that the young people know what to look forward to double the amount of Success Link jobs for this summer and school year, raise the budget to 15 million so that we can afford those 5,000 summer jobs and 1,000 year-round summer jobs. Open Success Link from 14 to 22, although the age range as of now is 15 to 18, and then distribute grants to organizations to allow more flexibility. I think you have to go back 2 slides. Yeah, so for this slide, hold on, has it loaded. Basically, this is the money that the light blue is the budgeted money that we've had for the youth jobs, and the dark blue is the amount of money that we haven't spent. And basically that shows that the red circles is about $1.8 million for youth jobs that went back to the city reserves. And if you go to the next slide, the numbers closer to the top is more recent years, but at the bottom you see that the money increases over the years. And we're asking to take some of the money from reserves to put it towards the budget for youth jobs.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Kanaya. Thank you, Jasmani, Nausicaa, and Janelle as well. And so that concludes the testimony from our initial group of young people. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And now we're going to jump to counselor questions. And then, as I said before, we'll move to taking testimony from other people who have signed up. So next up is going to be Councillor Mejia. Councillor Mejia?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Chairman Bach, and thank you, Mr. I'm so grateful for how thorough your presentation was. You definitely answered a lot of our questions during the working session, so thank you. I just have a few quick follow-ups that I'd just like to quickly just share. While I look for my notes, I will say that I had 3 jobs while out during the summer months, so a job literally saved my life. So for me, this is personal and professional, and I'm you all. And someone just muted me. I don't know why. Kenzie Park, did you mute me?
You're still going. You're good.
Oh, because it said I was muted. Okay. All right. So I wanted to follow up on my questions around COVID-19 related jobs. I'm curious to know how we can activate our youth during this time and into the summer in a way that pays them for their time. Do you have thoughts or suggestions on how we could do this right now instead of waiting for the summer months, since we have some young people that their remote learning has been reduced, so they actually do have some time on their hands, and I'm just wondering what, if any, opportunities exist around that.
Sure, Councillor. I'm sorry. Do you need me to answer?
No, I was going to go through all my questions, but we could do. Let me just go through all of them because you might find some parallels.
Sure.
So you mentioned that you were in discussion about how to create virtual spaces for youth during this time. Can you talk to me a little bit about that process? I'm really intrigued. I'm thinking about youth virtual peer leaders, and creating opportunities for young people. If they're not going to be able to be counselors during the summer, what opportunities exist for them to assume different types of jobs within the virtual space? So I'm just curious about what you're thinking about. And I asked this question during the Public Works hearing earlier today, but I figured it might be a good question to ask here as well. One of their goals is to plant 2,000 street trees. And I'd love to know how we can activate some young people in this process through internships or apprentices, learning how to be arborists, learning about landscaping. If there's any opportunities for you all, the Parks Department and yourself to kind of work in collaboration to help fund, employment opportunities for young people. And this is my last question, because a lot of the services are going digital for young people during this time. I'm curious to know what YEE's plans are to make virtual spaces in languages other than English for young people who speak other languages. As you know, I'm always talking about access, and language is definitely a barrier to engagement oftentimes. So just curious about what your thoughts are around that. Thank you.
Sure, thank you, Councillor. So there were 4 questions that I gathered from there, so I'll run through all 4 of those questions, and then please let me know if I missed anything. So the first question was centered around how can we activate young people right now instead of waiting until the summer. So from a youth job standpoint, that is our efforts for the summer in terms of just gearing up to provide opportunities for young people during the summer months. Right now, I think we're working on a peer-to-peer campaign. And what that peer-to-peer campaign is, how can we hear the voices of young people and their experiences during this time? How can we hear about their stories? How can we hear about their issues? And how can we pull that together in a campaign effort that is launched by the city? So there are some conversations that's happening with our office, Chief John Barrow's office, to really think about a peer-to-peer campaign right now going into the summer. And it was an ask of the mayor as well. So I believe that is a tangible way right now, and I can connect with you about this to get some young people involved at the current moment. Okay, so that was the first question. The second question in regards to virtual spaces. So my response was really more centered around knowing that young people have been living in the virtual world. It's been important for us to create a virtual space to meet them where they are. And, we love to brainstorm ideas. So our nonprofit partners and our colleges and universities, they will probably be great think tank partners to think about what does that youth space actually look like. So we can, I love to kind of sit down and figure out ways in which we can bring multiple folks to the table so we can begin to explore what are we talking about in terms of the youth space, and then kind of think about what steps can we take moving forward to get there. So that was kind of my response around the youth space. And then with the partnership with Parks, I would say absolutely. We are looking for more job opportunities for young people this summer. We are having conversations right now with Parks around beautification projects. So I think if we can, is Parks, in terms of planting trees, does that live with, who would that live with?
Public Works, right?
Public Works. Okay.
The collaboration between parks.
And-
Okay,
and
so
can-
we're already having conversations. Okay, we're already having conversations with them, so, you know, we can work on that as well. And then the language access, we can circle back around to LCA to fall back up on that.
And then I just wanted to, because I saw the gravel, now that gravel makes me really nervous, Kenny, so you're gonna have to figure out another system here, but I just do have another follow-up question. I'm really curious about your, looking at how do you tap into the biotech industry, the people who are in the tech industry to really create meaningful opportunities for young people for employment. And I don't think that summer employment is just the only. I believe in year-round employment. I think that we need to be able to support youth jobs all year long. And if there's anything that I can do through my office to help support those efforts, I'm raising my hand to help you do just that. And so just curious about your engagement with other businesses across the city to have them open up their doors to young people.
Sure, we can definitely look into that.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna yield my time with the rest that I have left over. Thank you so much, Rashad. I have some really great ideas that I'm gonna talk to you about in terms for the summer employment opportunities this summer, okay?
Great, love to hear them.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Councillor Mejia. And next up is Councillor Campbell, and then it'll be Councillor Sabi George and then Councillor Edwards. Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Councillor Bach and Rashad. It is so great to see you, my constituent. Hope you and your family are doing well, safe and healthy. And as always, thank you for your thoughtful leadership and work in this space. I know how passionate you are for our young people. I'm going to talk really quickly so that I can give all of my time or most of my time to the young people who have joined us. I want to thank them too for being a part of this conversation, so critically important. We have a hearing order that we filed, I along with Councilor Mejia and Councilor Janey and other colleagues on council signed on to talk about the importance of summer programming and summer jobs, what we can do creatively now, what we can do in the summer, and then of what we can do post-COVID-19. And with the recent sort of uptick in violence, you know, parts of the city are quiet, but District 4, largely Dorchester, Mattapan is my district, are not quiet. We know how critically important youth programming and jobs are. And so I am looking forward to working with you along with Midori, Northeastern, and all these other partners, frankly, who are stepping up. I guess I have two quick questions, and some I can just sort of do via email. I mentioned this earlier. There was a survey that was done with employers in the area to get a sense of who could transition their jobs to remote virtual jobs for our young people. Waiting on a copy of that survey to be able to see who those individuals are and how we might be able to add to that list based on our own outreach to employers, right? And then the second is just, I guess not a question, but maybe it's just a comment. Really appreciated the presentation of, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. My computer is freezing, so I apologize. I really appreciate the presentation of the young people and have to say we absolutely need to invest, increase our budget as best we can. I know we are going to, at some point, have to really talk about the numbers in the future, post-COVID-19. But to the extent we can get creative in pulling from reserves, the resiliency fund, whatever resources are coming in, this absolutely needs to be a priority. So I support you in any way of making their demands, and I like how they said demands, a priority. And then if we can get a copy of that survey. So I guess I have no questions, but just to say thank you for your incredible work.
Great, thank you. And I will get a copy of that survey over to you.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Bach. I'll give all my time to the young people.
Great, excellent. Thank you, Councillor Campbell. I appreciate that. All right, next up is Councillor Asabi George, and then it'll be Councillor Edwards, and then Councillor Flaherty. And I should note since the start that we were also joined by Councillors Flynn and Breeden, who will be after them. So, Councillor Asabi George.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Rashad. Thank you to your team and your youth, especially that were here. I am curious a little bit about the work of the Mayor's Youth Council, and in particular, the role of the participatory budget that they did this year. Or I suppose they did that through the Youth Lead the Change effort. But I'm curious if you could talk just a little bit about that. And then in separate to that, or in addition to that, kids that aren't involved in youth employment, or haven't participated at all, haven't been touched at all by YEE, what are the ways that we're thinking about how do we engage those young people in particular? And, you know, I've always, I guess I should have prefaced my question, my comment by first saying how I've enjoyed so much speaking before the Mayor's Youth Council and talking to your group of kids that you have engaged pretty regularly and that are at City Hall pretty regularly. They have followed up a number of times with some of the work that they're doing, and their policy agenda that they've created on their own. I really appreciate that opportunity to spend time with them. I think I had a meeting with 2 young women who are part of your group around accessing feminine products just before everything sort of shut down. So just want to applaud those efforts and the work that your staff does every day to engage the young people. Thank you, Rashad, and appreciate any sort of information that you want to share on any of those programs.
Great. So I can give a quick response to the NYC and YLC. So we do have a dynamic team working to move the Youth Lead to Change and the Mayor's Youth Council work forward, and they're doing an exceptional job. And I think from some of the notes that I shared with you guys about the current state of NYC, the program and what's canceled, but we are trying to do everything we can to prepare for a virtual NYC in the event that that is our reality going back into the school year next year. And then in terms of Youth Lead the Change, the program, so this year was our program year. So I mentioned earlier that we moved it to a 2-year phase, a 2-year initiative. So this year was our program year, meaning ideas were collected, young people created project proposals, young people voted on those projects, and there were 3 winning projects this year. The next year that's upcoming is an implementation year of the projects so that we can work very closely with the city departments to ensure that those projects are in fact implemented, because we found that we were doing the program every year and we was getting backed up in project implementation. So this upcoming year is a project implementation year, and then the following year we move back into program design year. But both of those efforts are moving forward pretty strongly.
So what is the project that's coming up this coming year?
So the 3 winning projects for this year was Plant the City. So that's that's an effort to plant more trees and gardens around the city. Heat for Success. These are young people that really care about the schools. So this is a partnership with Boston Public Schools to kind of get more heat in those schools. And then Boston Shelters. This is a partnership with BPH Woods Melon Shelter. So those were the 3 projects that young people voted on, and those were 3 projects that won this year.
And the shelter piece, I think, is the feminine products.
Yeah.
Great, great. Well, I applaud your efforts and your leadership, and I think of you every now and then as a triplet brother. My boys, my triplets turned 14 on Sunday, so
amazing.
And I'm always impressed at your presentation, your ability to do this work, and look for a similar success for my own boys and down the line. But thank you, Rashad, and it's great to see you.
Happy belated birthday to them. You as well.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Sabi George. Next up, we've got Councillor Edwards, and then it'll be Councillor Flaherty, and then Councillor Flynn. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman Bach, and thank you so much for the presentation, Rashad. I echo all of the compliments that my colleagues have given you, and I do really see great leadership in really bringing this program and bringing up the program and making sure we get out there. I understand you have a lot of dynamics impacting how you're going to employ youth, but I hear a commitment in your voice to employ youth and to make this program continue to grow. So I'm very happy about that. I wanted to ask you about partnership with nonprofits and how what we've noticed with even the housing is that sometimes some of the best outreach and sometimes the best way to get to youth that is, in between or not quite in line with all of the programs is to partner with an organization. The tree program you just mentioned, for example, NOAA has also been doing the treescape and study in East Boston. So I'm wondering if there's a possibility to take some, funding or grant block money and give it to a local nonprofit for them to hire directly with that money youth to either enhance programs from the city or to enhance the programs from this from the nonprofit. So that's my curiosity, if that's possible. And then number two, I had brought up a version of this, but in terms of online jobs that are now possibly available to youth, is there a way to look at that now that more youth have access to laptops, now that more youth have access to electrical equipment, working from home? What does the jobs program look like for youth to work from home?
Sure, Councilor. Thank you for your two questions. So the first question, were you referring to Speak for the Trees, which is an organization?
No, not so much as, well, I know that NOAA specifically has been doing, a lot of the kids had been counting the trees and talking about the treescape in East Boston. I just brought that up as an example of just one organization that's organizing, working with youth or something. I'm wondering if, and it seemed to be in line with the 3 projects you had talked about, just with Councillor Sabi George. So I just brought that up. So here's one organization kind of doing what you're doing. Is there a way to give them funding to hire folks directly to work in that organization for the city's programs or goals this summer, or to either already enhance work they're doing?
Yeah, so I think that for one, there's definitely an opportunity for them to be a partner, and we can employ young people to work through their program. So that's the immediate thing that we can work with them around. In terms of being able to provide grants to those organizations, we have had conversations about ways in which we can begin to think about granting out some of our summer job dollars. But those are conversations that are still ongoing. And I think as we continue to explore the feasibility of that, that will help us better determine how we can do that with community organizations. But I think for the interim, that organization can definitely be a partner, and we can definitely employ young people and pay for the wages and have those young people still work at that organization supporting that work. So that's the first question. And then the second question, in terms of the online virtual engagement, so we are pooling a ton of different virtual options. So we've had conversations with Northeastern. There's a Google IT certificate program that we are trying to pull together into the virtual platform. We're having conversations with Year Up. Year Up has a condensed version of their curriculum, which is called Grads for Life, that offers work readiness opportunities. So we are trying to pull together as many virtual options that we can for partner organizations to be able to share them as virtual work options going into this summer. And then, of course, we have a full list of just general online learning resources that's available for young people as well.
And thank you. I look forward to how that is going to, come to fruition. I'll just put a plug in again. I do think some form of block grants or separation of funds, I think, would be helpful. It also allows for a certain amount of flexibility within the organization, maybe to split it up with several part-time workers, folks who might want to, they work for a certain amount of time and then need to leave, and they can hire other folks. So I just, especially if they don't want to leave the community and want to stay either in that church or whatever specific organization, I do think it would be very helpful to consider even a pilot program this summer.
Sure. So we can think further about that.
Thank you very much, Rasad. Thank you, Madam Chair. I see the gavel.
Thank you so much, Councillor Edwards. Those excellent questions. Next up is Councillor Flaherty, and then it'll be Councillor Flynn, and then Councillor Breeden. Councillor Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Rashad, it's good to see you in a great presentation. I appreciate your passion and your commitment to our city, and I look forward to working with you through the budget and beyond. As we hear back from the partner survey that you had administered back in mid-April, I'd love to be included in those discussions around how we can best leverage our existing partnerships. I often say that Boston is we're a resource-rich and we're an opportunity-rich city, but we oftentimes find ourselves working in silos. And as the longest serving city councilor, I can tell you, I've got relationships all across the city and oftentimes get asked, how do I get involved, and or who do I need to call? And I would love to partner and stuff like that. So we can never take those partnerships for granted, given that some folks just need to be asked or they really don't even know where to start. So would love an opportunity to talk to you further about this out of the hearing as to how we could leverage some of those relationships to benefit, our city.
Sure, absolutely. And we'll get those survey results over to you guys as mentioned as well.
Sure. I'd also like to think about ways we could incorporate more of our local colleges and universities into this type of program. I know Bunker Hill is doing it, and from what I'm hearing, they're doing a great job out of it. So, for example, we could think about ways to use the private industry council, use their funding paired with a college program to complement that type of experiential learning. So it's, I know earlier my colleague, Councilor Mejia, talked about incorporating virtual reality into summer jobs. I think there could be an opportunity to prepare kids for jobs of the future that use remote technologies. And I'm sort of thinking about coding, robotics, construction technology, digital design, cybersecurity, things like that. And these types of courses can all be done in a remote environment. I can speak to having 3 of my kids are in college now, and one of the things that their school's thinking about now that they've all been home taking courses online, and Chairwoman Bach could probably speak to this in her experience, is that college universities are now identifying which programs are best suited for online instruction and which ones traditionally need the sort of that traditional professor in the classroom and sort of more the hands-on. And I think once that happens, and it's going to be a result of COVID-19, I think we're going to see our college and universities completely transform across the board. So again, those are sort of the types of things that I'm thinking that would be right in your wheelhouse in terms of using your passion, your energy, your skill set, and be able to connect all these things together, all these silos, as I referred to them as, and really take this to a whole new level. And I'm happy to talk to you again offline. I'm happy to partner with you. I'm excited about the future of this department and these programs.
Great, Councilor. And then I appreciate that. 2 quick responses to that. So we are partnering with Bunker Hill Community College. They do have a Learn and Earn initiative in which young people are working during the summer through our program, and they're also taking an online 3-credit course for credit. So there is an existing partnership with Bunker Hill, and we've had conversations as early as today to think about ways in which we can expand that partnership with them going into this summer. So that is something that is happening. And then as we talk about, our collective summer jobs plan, the Boston Private Industry Council PIC, they are at the table and they are playing a tremendous role in that conversation as well. So it is not just us as YEE, it consists of ABCD, John Hancock, MLK Scholars, and Boston PIC. So collectively, we are trying to think of a strategy together and not work in silos, as you mentioned.
Very good, Rashad. And obviously, and it's kind of dovetails with pilot payment in lieu of taxes. I know a lot of folks like to kind of jump on our colleges and universities. They add tremendous value to our city. They're some of our largest employers. They do things oftentimes quietly behind the scenes. They've been doing a tremendous, they've been partnering and obviously throwing a shoulder into the COVID-19 response to this, but I'm sure that they'd be willing to sort of talk about maybe being able to do more. And this is just, it's a perfect marriage, I think, for them to honor, some of their commitment to the city and to give back to the city, given, again, the pilot program and that they're tax exempt. So ways that we can get them more engaged and involved and tap into the resources that they have on their respective campuses, as well as their financial backing for programs is huge. So again, look forward to working with you, and it's good to see you. Good to talk to you.
As well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Councillor Flaherty. Next up, Councillor Flynn, and then Councillor Breeden.
Thank you, Councillor Bach, and thank you to Rashid for your presentation. More importantly, for the great work that you're doing. You represent the city very well. Thanks for your dedication and hard work, commitment. I work closely with a group in the South End called St. Stephen's Episcopal Church. They have a youth group there. It's a lot of kids from the South End and in Roxbury as well. They're doing wonderful work on youth engagement in after-school educational programs. Just want to see if you knew about that program and some of the services that they're working on. They have a great relationship with the Blackstone community as well. And again, right before you, when the young people testified, I enjoyed listening to them, and very, very fortunate to have these young people in our city working hard, trying to make Boston a better city. So I don't have any questions other than just if you want to take a look sometime at the St. Stephen's Church, but they have an excellent youth program there. Again, thank you, Rashid.
Yeah, thank you. And we are aware of St. Stephen's. They are a youth jobs partner. They've been a partner for a number of years. They've certainly been a partner since I've come into my role. So definitely aware of the great work that they're doing over there.
Thank you, Rashid, and thank you, Councilor Block, for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much, Councilor Flynn. And yes, St. Stephen's is awesome. Great program. All right, next up, Councilor Breeden. And then just so folks know, I'm going to continue to defer my questions. I have a bunch of questions, and they're mostly related to this question of how we amp up support for youth jobs this summer. But I do want to let the youth advocates speak for themselves. So I'm going to go to Councilor Breeden, and then after her, we'll go to the public testimony, and I'll back clean up with some questions after. So, sure. Councilor Breeden.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Rashid. The summer jobs program is going to be critical. I really appreciate your creativity and thinking outside the box and thinking of all sorts of ways we can provide jobs this summer. One concern I heard from another local youth organization in the neighborhood is that there's a lot of concern about many young folks, young students in school, public school, who are, there's a concern that they're not going to want to go back to school in September. And I really feel that the summer jobs program is a way to keep them engaged and keep them thinking positively about their future and giving them stepping stones forward. So they don't just get lost in COVID limbo. Yeah. So I really applaud your work, and I don't really have any more questions at this time, but just to say thank you so much for all you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Councilor Breeden. And now, as I said, I'm going to go to some testimony. So I'll read off a few of the names, and then let you into the waiting room. I'll recognize you, and then I'll let a few more people in. So we're going to be starting off with testimony from Armani White. Oh no, I think Armani may have just had to leave. All right, so skipping Armani for a moment. Armani, if you're watching, you're welcome to rejoin. We'll hear from Daisy Charles. And then Neftar Daralus, and then Shamika Moreno. So we'll do those three first. Okay, so, and please forgive me, folks, if I mispronounce your name. Just make sure to introduce yourself at the start so that everyone can know how it's properly said. Daisy Charles, I recognize you first. So just remember to introduce yourself and keep your comments to 2 to 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. My name is Deja, and I'm actually going to be speaking on behalf of a member of BSAC. So these are her words. Good day, all. My name is Fabian. I'm a junior at Brighton High School. I'm here representing the Superintendent's Executive Cabinet, Boston Student Advisory Council, and Youth on Board. I am writing to advocate for more youth jobs and to tell the importance of youth jobs in our community. Youth jobs are important because it gives us youth the opportunity to learn skills that we are not taught at school. It also gives us firsthand experience of what it is like to work for someone. Youth are the future, and it is the responsibility of everyone listening to this to make sure we have the training and resources to help us succeed. in the future because, as the statement goes, it takes a village to raise a child. Having jobs at an early age will also give us an idea of what future career we want to pursue while building our work experiences. Having a job from an early age also makes us responsible, with money, having a job, etc. Another reason why youth jobs are important is because some young people are a major source of income for their families. And if they do not have a youth job to earn money, they will not be able to support their families. Having a job also helps us to build valuable connections that can be useful for us in the future, which could spark lifelong careers. The last point I am going to bring up is having a job at a younger age tends to boost confidence and self-resilience. They would have more confidence when applying to jobs and more. There are many more reasons why youth jobs are crucial. I hope you give us the funding we need to ensure a better future for us because remember, we are the future. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Deja. Next up is Neftar, then it'll be Shamika, and then it'll be Amanda Govin. All right, so Neftar, your turn.
Hi, my name is Neftar DeRollis, and my neighborhood is Hyde Park. I'm representing an organization called Roxbury Environmental Empowerment Project, known as REAP. Youth jobs are very important to youth because they help keep youth off the street, give youth more opportunities to make more money and to learn a set of skills for the workforce. Youth jobs are also helpful who are trying to pitch in at home and try to help their families. Everyone can use some money right now, even during this pandemic. Like, not everyone has the luxury of getting money from their parents. Their parents themselves are struggling, trying to provide a living for themselves and their children. Bills are piling up, loved ones are getting sick. Some are even thinking about where their next meal will come from. The access to youth jobs could have helped all of these things. We are asking the budget for the youth jobs be increased to $15 million. The school year programs are fully funded and running. We want there to be an increase of jobs, like up to like 5,000 summer jobs for youth and 1,000 youth jobs for the school year, ranging from September to all the way to June. Also, the ages. We would like to extend the ages. You know how the ages for the summer jobs and all that stuff, you have to be 14 and you can't work for the Success Link anymore at the end of like your 18th birthday or something. We would like to extend that all the way to the age of 22. Don't throw away the money on other things. Like, it's wiser to invest your money into the youth because we are the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next up is Shamika, and then it'll be Amanda, and then Maria Dominguez-Gray. Shamika, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. I wrote my little, okay. As a mom of 17-year-old twins in the Boston public school system, one whom is profoundly deaf, a student at Horseman School for the Deaf in Brighton, he was excited to join the workforce last summer. It was his first year and one that accommodates him, made him feel even more happy. I work in recovery in Roxbury with mothers who have their children living with them. This is a normal occurrence in the inner city, where either the mother is single or both parents are working to provide for their families, to no avail, to make ends meet. These kids feel that stress and want to help. My son saved $1,800 of his summer paycheck. The rest he used toward his school supplies and clothing. A lot of the youth would love the opportunity to work, but they either don't know about the opportunity, not enough outreach, no resume, or no idea how to write one. With that being said, it would benefit these communities. The funding that's going to the police department for overtime would lower the need of patrol. If they got summer jobs, this would lower the need of patrol in the areas where these streets, the streets and the parks where these kids hang. If the communities, if they had a place to go that could teach them financial literacy, structure their lifestyle, positive social and emotional outlook on the world would come from this. in the world around them, working with the communities in these demographics, this initiative for me would keep them on a positive path, leaving high school and beyond. And if undocumented students could work as well, that would be a plus. That's all.
Great. Thank you so much, Shamika. So next up, it's Amanda. Amanda, your turn if you want to unmute yourself, and then it'll be Maria Dominguez-Gray, and then Arlen.
Good afternoon. Thank you guys for having me. My name is Amanda Govan. I am a residential representative for Reclaim Roxbury. I'm also a Roxbury representative for the IDP Coalition, and I live in Lenox Street, which is Boston housing, and we have a vibrant amount of youth on the property. And I just want to speak to a couple of issues that I noticed that has been going on in the past couple of years that has been going on with actual funding for youth jobs and actually having the right numbers allocated to the amount of youth that do want jobs during the summer and actually the youth that needs jobs during the school year. Because I don't think 5,000 for the summer and 1,000 throughout the year really is enough, because I would say we have more than just 5,000 teenagers in the city in general. And even though this teaches a lot of the youth life skills, employment skills, professional skills, a lot of stuff that they don't learn in the school, these funds have to be allocated, set aside, and protected, because I feel every year we shouldn't be having conversations about the youth budget when we already know that money needs to be put aside for the youth during the summer, so that way they can actually learn life skills and actually survive the summer. So one of my questions is, going forward for the next 2 years, 5 years, or the next decade, how are these funds going to be protected in the next budgets for like the next following years? How are these funds going to be protected for the youth and actually allocated and put aside solely for that? Because I believe that Boston Police Department, they have their own way of funding their fine as far as overtime or whatever the case may be with that. And two, as far as really allocating the youth, as far as teaching them about resumes and actual interviewing skills and actually providing them with actual professional clothes to look professional, there need to be resources for that as well. So I'm really looking forward to all of the organizations actually coming together, because this is a collaborative effort. It's not just one head, it's about like 10, 15 different organizations actually coming together, from the community colleges to the city government, to local nonprofit organizations. We're all coming together to preserve the youth, because we all know that they are the future, but we have to not make it seem like they have to beg every year for 1.2 million or 1.8 billion, when this should be set aside already every year, because every year summer comes, the season comes, we just have to prepare. And if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. This should be a plan that should already be in place and protected, because the youth in the city and outside the city needs to be protected as well. And I also wanted to actually give a shout out to a lot of the nonprofit organizations that are actually working with the city government to actually allocate and actually understand and know that they need to bring their resources forward as well to actually teach the youth and actually have them start on an actual lifetime employment path and actually have a way to actually having a career once they graduate high school, and actually know, just because this pandemic is going on, that doesn't mean that your life has to stop. This doesn't mean that your life has to be put on pause. Everybody is figuring out a way, and we're figuring out a way for you as well. So I really thank you guys for that.
Great. Thank you so much, Amanda. All right, next up is Maria Dominguez-Gray, someone I met when I was but a youth. And then it'll be Arlen, and then we'll go to David, and then Markeisha.
Hi, thanks, Councilor Bach, and thank you to the whole City Council, and Rashad, thanks for your partnership across the years. So my name is Maria Dominguez-Gray. I'm a resident of Roxbury and a Boston Public School parent, and I also have the privilege of serving as the executive director of the Phillips Brooks House Association. And for people who don't know PBHA, we're a community service nonprofit that is student-run, affiliated with Harvard. And in the summer, we run something called the Summer Urban Program, which provides summer learning opportunity for over 650 children from low-income families in Greater Boston. Those programs are directed by college students, and the classrooms are taught by college students working alongside junior counselors, teen counselors, many of whom are funded through the YE program. I just wanted to share a little bit about, maybe take a slightly different set of perspectives, because I echo everything everyone said, and I want to appreciate what Amanda just said in terms of considering multi-year funding, sort of line items. It makes a lot of sense instead of us showing back up here every year. And I say that as someone who's been in this movement and at these hearings since the late 90s. So this feels silly to have to do every year, but especially important this year. So the things that are true about why youth jobs matter every year are still true this summer, but I would add that there's some additional considerations that make this investment actually a smart decision for the city at large. And it's also kind of a bargain, really, when we're thinking about long-term economic costs to our city. So as I mentioned, our teens work in the classrooms, right? So this summer, we're planning on continuing to run. We may have to run remotely. We think we probably will. And we're going to be focusing on making sure that the children in our programs are receiving tutoring and small group instruction around preliminary standards. Those are the standards that were identified by the Department of Education to make sure that we've invested in those standards before the children start the following year. And many of our children, as we know, BPS has done a tremendous job. I've been amazed as a parent and seeing this firsthand. But many of our children lack access right now and are falling further behind. So we're not just talking about summer learning loss this summer, we're talking about the COVID slide as well. And so the need to really invest in our children and so many of our teens who work as counselors help make that possible for the children. So it's kind of a multiplier effect investment in making sure that the teens have the jobs this summer. The other thing that I want to name in terms of why this matters for investment in the teens is that making sure that the teens have that connection is extremely important always, and more so than ever this summer. So they also have been dealing with sort of loss, academic loss these past few months in critical years that impact our ultimate numbers with the Department of Education, how much funding we end up getting. So we should be connecting these young people to programs, to caring adults, to make sure that they're on track this summer and have those connections so they're not falling further behind and affecting, kind of greatening the achievement gap for our young people this summer. So it's a huge argument for us to make that actually this is a smart economic investment and that will keep it from losing stuff down the line. And then the other piece around that I just want to name is that we're in a public health crisis. And it's really important to make sure that our families and our young people and our youth are connected in a way that they're getting accurate information around public health and what's going on, that they have places to be safely and to know and have the resources to do that. It's a way for us to make sure we're getting resources to the broader community and to the families. Many of the parents of these young people have been laid off, don't have jobs, don't have income. And so the income to these teens and young people is going to matter now more than ever. It's just a really smart move for us to do. As somebody who's been part of these for a long time, I just want to say also $15 million is nothing. It is a very small increase. I'm not going to say that I'm advocating for us to go up. I'm actually going to say I'm advocating for us to go back. When we were doing these things in the late 90s, we were advocating for $14.5 million. If you do inflation, that's what the funding was. If you do inflation, we're actually way under what we used to be. And we actually used to have jobs for 14 to 22-year-olds. So this is not like a new thing. It's something that was cut, that we cut. And you can see direct correlation between when we made these cuts to the increase in violence in the city. What we call the Boston Miracle, what we talked about at the time, a lot of that was investment that we made in these meaningful opportunities for young people. So I really want to support the Youth Job Coalition a platform in terms of making sure we get 14 to 22-year-olds. We expand the platform. We go up to the 15 million and want to offer that we'd be happy to take increased people. I know the survey went out in April, Rashad, so thank you for that. I want to say many of us didn't kind of know what was going to happen in April, so I think it might be worth doing some follow-up phone calls or bringing the youth providers back together to brainstorm how we can expand opportunities across the board. So we'd be happy to take people to help do the census, to help do voter registration, to do additional areas outside of even the classroom support. So thank you all. I really, really do sincerely appreciate you guys having this hearing and listening to the young people and all the leadership you've had around the COVID situation. But as I say to my own organization, you know, if you're ever going to use reserves, this is why we have reserves for summers like this. So please, please, please consider the reserves, consider the savings we've had in the flesh past couple years, and invest in the young people this summer.
Thank you so much, Maria. Next up, we've got Arlen, and then it will be David, and then Markeisha, and then Nausicaa and Kanaya. All right, Arlen.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Arlene. I'm from Dorchester, Mattapan, that area. This past school year, I've had the privilege of working at the Roxbury Environmental Empowerment Project, REAP for short. I'm here advocating for the youth jobs during these uncertain times because they provide security for many families across Boston. COVID-19 has disproportionately affected the lives of people of color in our city. I personally know many young people who have loved ones in the hospital currently because of the coronavirus and also other health conditions which they can't visit because of the pandemic. This, in combination with people already losing their jobs and being laid off because of COVID, makes things just that much more difficult. Please don't make young people losing their jobs during the summer or not having access to a job pile onto the issues families are already experiencing. I also want to mention how, because we are not living under regular circumstances, young people can't just go out and look for other jobs that they usually would be able to get. Like, for example, working in retail if they weren't working through BCYF. Boston's young people have limited access to these things because of COVID, and the BCYF program is in most cases their last strand of hope when looking for a way to provide for themselves and their families, which is why I also want to push you all to widen your age range to include people from the ages of 14 to 22 in your program to support as many people as possible during COVID. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Arlene. And now we'll go to David, and then it'll be Markeisha. David?
Hi, I'm David Cheltenham, and I'm actually from PVHA, but I'm reading on behalf of somebody named Justine from BSAC. Young people should be allowed to work without a doubt. The reason is many young people come from low-income or single-parent households. This means that they have to help their families when it comes to paying rent and household necessities. Without a job, young people will no longer be able to help their families, or worst case scenario, will try to find a job that is not legal. These jobs put young people's lives at risk and are dangerous because there are no regulations like government-provided jobs. When people are pushed to the wall, they will do what they can to survive, and America's young people are no different. Providing jobs keeps people from doing things they shouldn't. It gives them a place to be and something else to do, with their spare time that provides them with some money. Another reason why youth jobs are important is that it gives young people proper exposure to the workforce. I know for me personally, I do not know what field I want to procure in the future, but being able to work as any given has given me more experiences in fields I didn't know I was interested in. Youth jobs allow youth to be productive parts of society. I ask you, please provide more funding for youth jobs so that more jobs and money are available. To provide a variety of different jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, David. All right, next up, Markeisha, and then Nausicaa, and then Kanaya. And I'll just say before we go to Markeisha, if I think George, Jason, and Janelle are the only ones left in the waiting room. So if any of you all, and I don't have you on my list to testify, if you want to testify, just raise your blue hand and you'll get to go after. All right, so Markeisha, you have the floor. And you have to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you guys hear me now?
Yep. You can now.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, I'm gonna be really quick. I just want, number one, to say how impressed I am and how proud I am to listen to these youths plead their case. They're so smart and so articulate, and I feel like this is the reason why we need to invest in our youth. When we don't, they represent what we put into them. Having the tools that they need to be able to succeed and to be able to work, be able to get necessities, be able to get just the basics, be able to have food, be able to have computers, be able to have the tools that they need in order to get ahead. This is what we need to teach them. We need to invest in our youth because we need to teach them that they are important to us so that the next generation invests in their youth. And that's how we change our society and the way society looks at us and the way our youth look at themselves. So I just wanted to tell you guys you are important to me, and I really hope that they invest in youth jobs. I have a 15-year-old right now at home, and my kids are very smart, but if they don't have if I'm not able to buy them a computer or able to they have to worry about how they feel about when they go back to school or how people view them. I don't think those should be worries that our children should have. They need to be able to be self-sufficient, help out, and feel important, and then they'll act accordingly. So thank you guys, thank you counselors, and thank you youths. I love hearing you guys talk.
Great. Thank you so much, Markeisha. All right, Nasika, you're up next.
Okay. Hi, my name is Nosika again. Again, I'm from Hyde Park, and today I will be testifying in support of youth jobs. So as many of y'all know, we are currently in a pandemic, and it has been getting way much worse rather than better. And many families have been going through a lot financially, mentally, and physically. And though we cannot do much, one thing that we can do is alleviate the financial burden. By putting more money into youth jobs, we are helping those families who are either laid off or currently unemployed or currently filing for unemployment. Many families, especially low income and POC families, are struggling heavily in our communities, and their youth would like to help. As a youth, it is very hard to watch my mom work extra hard to make money to pay for the bills and pay for everything during this pandemic, especially when she's an essential worker. She works every single day, Monday, Fridays, with long hours, making money to take care of this family. And with my father's current state, it permits him from working, and because of that, it falls on one person to carry the whole family, which is probably the same for many others. It was much easier for her to work during a time when the pandemic wasn't around because she felt more comfortable going outside. But as a person who has many illnesses, including diabetes, high cholesterol, and also anxiety, it is harder for her to work her best as a nurse, knowing that she can possibly get a sickness that is very detrimental to her body, especially at the age that she is. Me being able to work now throughout the pandemic is a very big help in my family, even though it may not be a lot, it is still something. It still helps with some of the bills and with some of the other financial burdens that we sustained, especially because of coronavirus. I am testifying because I hope that my voice can help other youth that are going through the same thing get what they need to also help their family. I'm so grateful that I have this job to help my family because I know that there are so many other youth who don't have this opportunity. And when I put myself in their shoes, I would want someone to also advocate for my ability to get a job and to know that I don't have to worry about the limited number of jobs that are funded. That's why I think that the coronavirus has done nothing more than push us into the inevitable and realizing that youth matters in our community, in our economy, and youth matters in our future. And because of that, we need to support them more by funding for more youth jobs to not only help them in the time right now, but to also develop them into the people that we want to see in our society tomorrow. So I'm asking that when we take into account what the city budget should look like, we should think about how we are funding for a better future. So instead, do not add onto the oppression and the burden with that these youth and their family go through, but alleviate them by adding more money into the budget. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Kanaya. You have to unmute yourself. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. I'm reading a testimony from someone at BSAC. Hello, everyone. My name is Simon. I'm a 16-year-old student from Boston Latin Academy. I'm talking here today because I believe it's both essential and vital that youth summer job programs continue to take place this year. There are a plethora of reasons why youth jobs provide so much for the city of Boston and so much for the citizens of even knowing our current conditions. One thing that I think is important to remember when thinking about this is not only is this a good opportunity for young people, it would also extremely help the economy and many organizations in the city of Boston. I've come to see that many organizations actually rely on young workers to work for them in the city to do a lot of the work they need to get done. For example, in my 9th grade summer, I was a lifeguard intern at the BCYF pool in Rosendale. Every day, I spent most of my time taking calls, cleaning bathrooms, and doing the work that no one else had the time to do. Between the lifeguards and the manager, everyone else was extremely busy, and they relied on my internship with the mission to get things done that needed to be done. If I wasn't there, they would have had a lot more work to do, and I don't know when they would have had the time to do it. Additionally, in my 10th grade summer, I worked for the Boston Student Advisory Council. This is a job purely student-led organization that without students, it would not exist. This shows exactly how important it is for student jobs to continue because they affect so much more than people realize. Furthermore, the lessons that students learn from their early on jobs are very important to their future and their development as people. This is because they now have responsibilities and a boss or someone above them telling them what to do and show up somewhere and get the job done. When they receive a check every other week, they then have to think and work on how that money will be students will be given their check directly to their families in need, and even that will help them better understand costs of saving money. These are very important skills to learn and that are vital for young people to learn. In conclusion, it is very important that young people have a job this summer for many reasons. We are boss of the young people overall and the importance of it. However, I will end my testimony with this one statement. By giving back to young people in Boston and providing them with job opportunities, you allow them to grow as people who will in 10 to 20 years to enhance.
Great. Thank you so much, Kanaya. All right, I think that concludes the public testimony portion of our hearing, and I'm really grateful to everybody for testifying, and also to the many folks who testified for sticking around and waiting to do that. It's really a benefit to all of us to hear your voices. Rashad, if you don't mind, I have a few questions that I wanted to raise, and then I'll see if either Councillor Asabi George or Councillor Breeden have follow-ups as well. So my question is a couple. So one is, I mean, to the point that the young folks raised about, for a couple years running, we haven't spent all the budget authority that YE has on Summerlink. I'm just curious about, to me, I would really like to see us have a big surge in youth jobs. And there's two pieces of that, right? And one of it is advocating for more money, which is something that I intend to do in this process. Obviously for you, it's you have to administer what you get. But then there's a separate question, which is, even if we get that budget authority, the race to sign up potential host organizations, whether they're public, private, or nonprofit, for our young people. And obviously the council hasn't yet seen the sort of data on who's saying, yeah, they're still up for it and who's saying they're not. But it seems to me like we're going in order to even fund a bunch more jobs, and we need a bunch more placements. And I would love to be part of kind of really pushing on that. So to that point, I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about what the challenges have been in the past in terms of placing as many youth as we've budgeted for, and what your strategies are for whatever your budget authority ends up being for this summer, making sure that we are using every dollar of it to place somebody in a job.
Sure, Counselor. So first, thank you to all the young people who testified. Definitely very, very helpful and great to hear your advocacy for yourselves and for your peers. So definitely appreciate hearing all of you speak today. Counselor, so to your question, so I've been in my role for about 4 years. And well, this September will make 4 years. And one of the biggest challenges that we have seen is the actual hiring process for young people. The hiring process, it is a cumbersome process because we're hiring young people as city employees. So we have seen a number of young people be selected for a job, be placed in a job, but not be able to follow through on completing all of their hiring paperwork. So that has been a challenge that we've tried to find many different mediums to address. We've relaxed some of the guidelines as much as we can to still ensure that we're following federal guidelines and OHR guidelines to employ young people. But I think that we have to think a little bit more creative in terms of ways in which we can support young people with, not being able to follow through on the completion of a lot of their paperwork. Because the jobs have been filled. It's just there have been a gap in number of young people who have either one, didn't complete their paperwork, or two, they may have, taken one of our successing jobs, but they may have also applied for a job with PIC or ABCD. So they may have taken one of those jobs and then we're not aware of it. So that's why I think in our fiscal year 20 accomplishments, you will see that we talked about working on trying to improve our alignment across all of these summer job providers to make sure that we're accounting for all of the jobs that are provided to young people, not just the successing jobs. So I think that's the question. That's probably a helpful answer to your first question. And then the second question, I would say that, was that centered around, can you repeat the second question again?
Well, I think it was just about us recruiting more potential placements for this year.
Oh yeah, so we're still waiting we're combing through, and I think Maria from PBH, Phyllis Brooks House mentioned this. So we are circling back around to all of the partner organizations that completed the survey. The survey went out mid-April. And yes, we realize that there are organizations who are in a different place now than they were mid-April. So we are circling back around to them to really get a commitment on whether or not they can move forward with summer jobs during this time. And then the mayor has put an ask out to all city departments if they have the capacity and ability to host young people during the summer as well. So Midori and myself, we're fielding any requests from more city departments that are interested in working with us to design job opportunities to young people. And then thirdly, in terms of just general community-based organizations, we are open to more community organizations that are not currently partners that may be interested in providing job opportunities to young people partnering this summer.
Got it. Have you guys considered asking the city council whether we want to host anybody?
So I think some of our young people have been placed in city council, and I'm not sure, and maybe this may be just my ignorance, I'm not sure if that's just going through the jobs that we're giving to City Hall, because we do give some jobs to City Hall, and maybe city councils are working with OHR. So I'm not exactly sure, but we do give jobs to City Hall, and those jobs are dispersed to some of the city departments. But I'm not exactly sure whether or not City Council's office are part of that. I do know that Councillor Andrea Campbell reached out to me last year, and there was a young person that we did hire that was placed in her office through the jobs that we're placing at City Hall. So I think that we can just work on better coordinating that effort.
Yeah, I'd certainly suggest that. I think we need to have as many placements as we can, and I'm sure I'm not the only one of colleagues who would be happy to field such an email positively. I think my other question is just to your point about the difficulty with paperwork and hiring. I mean, to me, it raises the question of should we, I think this is part of what Councillor Edwards was maybe getting at, but like, is there a way for us to send some of the Summerlink funding, and maybe especially if we got some supplemental funding, to kind of grants to organizations that could maybe pay, an organization that might be stipending a youth worker anyways or whatever, and then they already have a relationship with them. They've got, something set up. Because it just seems like I'm familiar with the process of becoming a city worker, as I think we all are, and it's frankly a hurdle that like takes a lot of adults some time to get through. And so it just seems like in an emergency situation like we're in right now, figuring out how to minimize that kind of friction just seems more important than ever.
Yeah, and we've improved the online process a lot, but you're right, we're still hiring the City of Boston employees, so there are still some hurdles in place there. So again, we're going to circle back around to continue to have discussions about the granting out opportunity and kind of see where we can land with that. So your point's well taken.
Okay. All right. I have one or two more questions quickly, but I just wanted to first check if my colleague, Councillor Sabi George, wants to ask anything.
I don't want to ask anything. I just want to give a thumbs up to the idea of hosting a student or one of our young people in our offices. I don't recall ever having communication for that request, so I don't know if Councillor Campbell did that in her capacity as council president, perhaps. Sometimes there was a little bit of extra funding through central budget for that, but 3 cheers for that. I endorse that idea of bringing kids in. We've done it through a similar program through the Mass Commission for the Blind. And it's just always, and then we've had some other interns through other opportunities in the summer, young people, and it's always been very successful. Okay. So I endorse that idea.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Great. And Rashad, can I just ask you, so, because I saw in the response, I think that you all sent to us that, obviously the plan is for 3,300 success-linked jobs. And then but then it said number projected for 2020 was 2,000. Does that reflect a loss of willingness on employer side?
Yeah, so Councilor, that really kind of reflects the unknown mainly around camp jobs. So a lot of our success-linked jobs are camp jobs, and within the BCYF centers and there's Boys and Girls Club camps, there's YMCA camps. So as the Department of Public Health is making their decision around public health guidelines and then making their decision around camp jobs, we're assuming that, there'll be a little cut, with those jobs. I think it's a little bit of an unknown because we don't know, what's going to happen come July. So, so that cut takes in consideration those jobs, and we are working to try to fill that gap with some of the information that I did share with you.
Okay. Yeah, because it seems to me, I mean, obviously the young people are advocating for 5,000 instead of 3,300. I think to go down to 2,000 on even in this, piece of the puzzle would be really sad. But it just seems to me like we're not gonna get to a surge number super incrementally, right? It's like we need whole new categories of do things. And so that I was excited to see about your partnerships with Public Works and Parks, and sort of, I think there's an opportunity with the Housing Authority. I think, we should be thinking about sort of whole cores of jobs that we can stand up for young people on the public side to substitute this summer. But I really want to voice the need not to just kind of passively wait for, and I know you're doing an amazing amount of work. I just mean, I don't want us to just wait to see what our existing partners say and then kind of live with the result. Because it seems to me we've got to have these jobs. So if we have a gap, we got to know what it is. And I think a lot of us council colleagues are happy to, be part of actively trying to create opportunities there.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. And and I think Those are, I believe, and can you just tell me, just like, sorry, and forgive me for not knowing this, but just, is there a supervisory position built into the program? Or or like in terms of supervising the teens, are there jobs for the young people that kind of are more supervisory for the older young people? Can you just explain that piece to me?
Yeah, so we have 200 of our successing jobs that are dedicated towards like supervisor age position. So those are youth between the ages of 19 to 24. I think the challenge with that is it's a very small number. It is a part of our 3,300 jobs for young people. So partner organizations have asked for, more than, like, there's been a higher demand and the number of, 18 to 24 supervisor positions than we have. So I think that is a conversation at which we can continue to think creatively about and continue to have about how do we increase that. But yeah, it's a very small component. 200 is not a lot at all, but it's there.
And is there a reason? I mean, are they like more expensive? Like, why would we not? I mean, again, I guess this is to the question about sort of expanding the age range to 14 to 22. I mean, is there a reason that we wouldn't kind of think about expanding past those 200 supervisor roles to, doubling, tripling it, making it, just curious, what do you see as the limitations on that?
So I think that being in this role for about almost 4 years, I think is funding related, because I think that if there were more than 3,300 jobs, those additional 3,300 jobs came from those additional supervisor positions, which I think there's probably like a $1.70 difference. So if we didn't have those supervisor positions, those would equate back to youth positions. And then that youth positions will probably go from 3,100 essentially to maybe like 500 or so. So I think it's just been largely that. It's just funding. And yeah, I think it's just funding. I can't say that there's any other reason why, aside from us. We're level funded. We've been level funded for a number of years, certainly since I've come into this role. So it's us taking, that level funding and trying to maximize the youth position and the supervisor positions as much as we can.
Got it. So you're saying, so the summer jobs program specifically has been level funded for at least the last 4 years?
Yeah, so our budget for youth jobs has been level funded. Our school year jobs are a spinoff of the summer jobs funding that may not go fully used. So there's no separate funding for school year jobs. It's a large part of that funding is dedicated primarily to our summer jobs.
I see. So you just take whatever's left because of those people not taking their places and stuff, and then you use that for full year jobs.
Yeah, it's placements, but it's also, we budget for every young person to work the full duration of the summer. So that's the full 6 or 7 weeks, the full 25 hours a week. And young people that are even working, they have vacations with their families. They may not work every hour. So there are some, if you think about 3,000 jobs, there are some savings, from those jobs. So that savings is taken and is carried over to the school year.
I got it. And can you just tell me what is the pay rate on these jobs?
So it's minimum wage. So right now, minimum wage is $12.75.
And that's for the summer, right?
That's for the summer. And as you may be aware, minimum wage is going to go up every year. So that means that youth wages will go up every year as well.
And we haven't been increasing our funding commensurate with the minimum wage.
We have.
We have. Okay. No, I mean, we've been paying them the increased minimum wage, but have we increased the amount of money? Because you said we were level funded. So if we were level funded, then I would expect as the minimum wage goes up, that pays for fewer jobs.
No, so our funding has taken into consideration the increase in minimum wage.
I see. Okay. So then the supervisors, they get paid like $14.50 an hour then, like another buck 75.
I think we're paying them $14 an hour.
Okay.
So it's a difference of, what is that, like $1.25? Yeah.
And the age range, I know I have this in for, is it 15 to 18?
15 to 18, and then 19 to 24 for the supervisors. That's correct.
19 to 24. Okay. And what's the reason? Because I saw, again, the young people were interested in the question of starting at 14. Is there a reason we don't start at 14?
Yeah, so I think the primary reason for the successing program not starting at 14, it can be a number of things. So when I came into the role, it was a program that targeted 15, 18-year-olds, and then we were also under BCYF. And BCYF, as you're aware, they have a pretty strong pre-employment program for 13 and 14-year-olds, which is their super teen program. And that super teen program has been a feeder program into the Successful Youth Jobs program. So, my thinking, has been like, how do we continue to work with BCYF? Because their program is structured for that 13 and 14-year-old population, and they have great staff to do a great job with that model. How can we look to increase funding for that program and have those, have partnerships with CBOs that are still a part of growing the Super Teens program? Yeah.
Got it. And sorry, the CBO acronym, I don't think I know it. I saw it also in the answers to the question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's community-based organizations.
Okay, got it. Great. All right, great. Well, sorry, that was a lot of questions for me, and I'm super grateful to you. I'll say I won't ask you any questions about it, but when I was at the Housing Authority, was involved in trying to spread the word about the Youth Pass with the Mbta, and think that's a great initiative. So just want to appreciate the office for working on spreading the word about that as well. And I'll just raise, because she had to jump off, Councillor Breeden just wanted to raise that an issue she's heard raised by some people is just making sure that whatever there is for our young people to do this summer that's in person, that there's, PPE available to make sure they've got, masks and appropriate other equipment. So I'm sure you guys are thinking about that, but.
We are.
Great. All right. Well, I think that now nothing remains except for me to thank you for sitting it out so long, and really, more importantly, for all the work that you're doing, and to say, I certainly am looking forward to partnering with you on this, and I know many of my colleagues are as well. So,
great.
Thanks so much, Rashad.
All right, take care.
And with that, I'm adjourning this meeting of the Boston City Council's Committee on Ways and Means. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening.